According to the U.S. Surgeon General, we're living through a loneliness epidemic. People are starving for connection. And then there's you. Your phone lights up, their name. And your body says, no, not with anger, not with a speech, just no. You don't feel lonely in that moment. You feel relief, like someone finally turned the volume down inside your chest. Like you stopped paying rent to a relationship that kept raising the price. So when did this happen? When did you become the person who can disappear without hating anyone? The one who can cut the cord and still sleep? Because here's the part nobody says out loud. Sometimes cutting everyone off isn't coldness. It's your nervous system ending the conversation. There's a name for that switch. In Polyvagal Theory, Stephen Porges' work, when your system has been overloaded for too long, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't negotiate. It just flips. So when you go quiet, you're not being difficult. You're performing a survival ritual. And the question isn't, what's wrong with you? The question is, what did your body finally realize it couldn't afford anymore? Silence isn't a personality. It's not some new you that showed up out of nowhere. It's a setting. Because the moment you stop replying, people don't say, oh, they're protecting their nervous system. They say, cold, antisocial, distant. Like you woke up and decided to be a villain with better boundaries. But your body doesn't experience it as cold. Your body experiences it as finally safe. Think of it like a dimmer switch in your house. Outside, the blue glare keeps flashing notifications, headlines, other people's urgency. Inside, you turn the knob down just enough to hear yourself exist again. And that's the reframe. They call it cold. Your body calls it safe enough to power down. In Polyvagal Theory, Stephen Porges' work, your autonomic nervous system isn't just calm or stressed. It has modes. Social engagement when you have capacity, defense when you don't. And when you've been overloaded for too long, your body doesn't hold a meeting. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for the right moment. It just flips the switch. 1 second, you're performing, I'm fine. Next second, your system is gone, quiet, flat, unreachable, not because you're cruel, but because your biology has decided the noise is no longer negotiable. So powering down isn't giving up. It's your biology refusing more noise. And if you want a name that doesn't blame you, just explains you not as a label, but as a receipt your body hands you. Here it is. There's dorsal vagal shutdown. That's the mute button, the power-saving mode. Not a tantrum, not a moral failure. A system that's trying to stop overheating. And then there's allostatic load, Bruce McEwen's term. I call it the accumulated stress bill. Because stress isn't just a bad day. It's a bill that keeps stacking quietly behind the scenes. A little late fee every time you push through. A little interest every time you swallow it and keep smiling. So if people have told you you're too much, here's the sharper truth. You're not too much. You're overdue. Meaning, you didn't change. Your system ran a bill it couldn't keep hiding. Paper shifting on the counter. Cold tabletop under your palm. Steam rising from the mug you forgot you made. And that low hum, not abstract, not poetic, real. The refrigerator motor cycling on. The air vent breathing a steady line of sound. A soft electrical purr in the walls. The kind of noise that doesn't demand anything from you. Just proof that the house is holding you up while the world stays outside. And if that hum feels familiar, it's because you've been here before. Not in this exact house, but in this role. The exhausted pillars, the ones who hold things up so other people don't have to feel the weight. A lot of you didn't grow up with a soft landing. You grew up with a key. You know, that sound metal teeth finding the lock, the little resistance, then the turn, click. And for half a second, the great silence. No voices, no buffer, no adult mood filling the air. Just you. And an empty house. You walk in, drop your bag, flick the kitchen, light yourself, make your own snack, and without anyone teaching you, you start doing the invisible math early. Is everyone okay? Is anyone angry? What do I need to prevent tonight? Years later, people call you strong. But that strength didn't start as a personality trait. It started as a requirement. You were trained to be fine before you had language for tired. You learn to keep your face neutral, keep your needs small, keep moving. Because when you grow up in a world that doesn't pause for your nervous system learns not to pause either. So if your capacity feels lower now, if the friendliness, the availability, the emotional labor doesn't turn on the way it used to, there's nothing mysterious about it. It's cumulative. And yes, some of it is personal, but a lot of it is historical, because then came the moment the volume of survival got turned up for an entire generation, 2008. Not as trivia, not as a documentary title card. As a scene you can still feel in your hands. You're standing in a kitchen under that cold, white light, the kind that makes everything look a little harsh. An envelope is open on the counter, paper edges sharp. Your thumb slides along the crease like it's testing a blade. The TV is on in the background, low, relentless. Voices talking like weather reports, markets, layoffs, uncertainty, like it's just the atmosphere now. And your body does something you didn't consciously choose. Your jaw tightens. Your shoulders rise. Your palm goes dry on the paper. Because in 2008, the world didn't just get expensive. It got unforgiving. Like rest became a luxury item. Like even sitting down came with a price tag. And here's the steel part, the part your body understood before your mind found words. Stress isn't just what happens to you. Stress is what stays in you. So the equation gets brutal, quiet, accurate. Allostatic load equals S stress SIS, capacity. Not math like homework. Math like a life you've been carrying. The stresses keep adding. The capacity doesn't magically expand. And the moment the sum outweighs what you can hold, your system doesn't debate it. It starts protecting the lights. This is why the science matters, but only if it lands in the gut. Allostatic load is the cost of staying in on for too long, the body's version of keep scanning, keep bracing, keep earning safety. Meaning you weren't lazy. Your body learned staying alert keeps the lights on. And if that sounds unfair, that's because it was. It wasn't about your character, it was about your era. Then the next wave hit, not as one big explosion, as a slow remodel of the front door. Because the internet didn't just connect people, it made access feel like a right. At first it was convenience, then it became expectation, then it became a culture. A blue-lit screen that never really sleeps, a tiny vibration on wood, a buzz you feel before you hear it, a thin electronic hiss at the edge of your awareness like static you can't fully turn off, and suddenly your home isn't a home. It's a lobby, 24/7. You're in bed and your phone lights up like a knock at the door. You're eating and there's another ping, another quick question, another you got a sec, and it's not even the messages that break you. It's the potential of messages. Your nervous system starts living in that anticipatory posture, half inside, half outside, always slightly braced, always slightly on call. This is where behavioral science quietly wires itself into your evenings. Variable reward, dopamine loops, the unpredictable maybe this matters hit that keeps you checking. Meaning, your brain wasn't weak. It was being trained to stay on call. So by the time you cut someone off, it usually isn't dramatic. It's administrative. It's your body doing paperwork. Because here's what cutting everyone off tends to be made of. Not one betrayal, but too many small violations. The kind that look harmless until you realize they've been happening for years. A person who only calls when they need something like you're a service. A family member who steps over your no like it's a loose rug. A friend who love bombs, disappears, returns, and acts surprised you notice the cycle. A conversation that always ends with you paying the emotional bill. A compliment with conditions. An apology that's really a negotiation. A conflict that never resolves, just reappears in new packaging. And the sharpest part? It's not the big moments. It's the casualness of it. Like your boundaries were never real to them in the first place. Like your front door wasn't a door, just a suggestion. You didn't cut them off on a bad day. You cut them off after too many small violations. There's a phrase for this in family systems language. Emotional cutoff. Not as cruelty, not as punishment, as a pressure valve. When closeness starts costing too much, distance becomes containment, meaning distance wasn't cruelty, it was containment. And if you've ever closed your door and felt your whole chest drop an inch, that's the data. That's not you being heartless. That's your body recognizing an environment it can finally stop defending against. Click. For one full second, nothing is required of you. No performance, no diplomacy, no translation of someone else's mood, just quiet. Now, here's the pivot that matters, because not all silence is sanctuary. Some people build walls, and some people build boundaries. A wall is sealed, no air, no entry, no exceptions. It's built out of fear because fear wants certainty. A boundary is different. A boundary is a door with a lock. Control, selectivity, breath. A wall says, nobody. A boundary says, not everyone gets access to my peace. And the way you can tell the difference isn't by what people call you. It's by what your body does. If you cut someone off and you felt relief, real relief, not the numbness of collapse, pay attention. If you cut someone off and you felt peace settle in like warm light, not euphoria, not spite, just quiet, pay attention. Because peace isn't withdrawal. Peace is permission. Selective permission. Cold metal under your fingertips as you touch the lock. Your breath dropping lower, into your belly. The refrigerator motor cycling on again, steady, indifferent, faithful. And outside, the blue glare can keep flashing. Inside, you get to decide what enters. And once you see that difference, wall versus boundary, fear versus clarity, you start to realize the real question isn't, why did I cut them off? The real question is, what did my nervous system recognize that my mind kept trying to explain away? What did your nervous system recognize that your mind kept trying to explain away? Because your mind will negotiate. Your mind will rationalize. Your mind will say, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I should just try harder. But your body is not built for polite denial. Your body is built for survival. And this is where the mechanism matters, because once you see it, you stop taking it personally. In Polyvagal Theory, Stephen Porges's work, your nervous system isn't a single mood. It's a switchboard. One setting is social engagement, eye contact, warmth, connection, the I can handle people mode. Another setting is defense. And when the system decides you've crossed the line into too much, it doesn't send you an email. It doesn't schedule a meeting. It doesn't wait for you to finish being a good person. It just flips. Picture it. Outside, the world is still doing what it does. Blue glare, static, urgent little pings. Inside, you reach for the lamp. Click. And for one full second, the great silence. No explanation, no justification, just the unmistakable feeling of a room going still. Your body didn't ask permission. It just flipped the switch. That's dorsal vagal, shut down your system's power-saving mode. The mute button, the we're not doing this right now setting. And here's the bridge that makes it human again. Meaning, your silence isn't running away. It's your nervous system choosing survival over performance. Because performance is expensive. Performance costs breath, costs patience, costs the constant micro-calculations, tone, timing, facial expression, the right amount of caring, the right amount of softness. Silence is what happens when the system refuses to keep paying. Click. Then the low hum returns steady, ordinary, like the house itself is saying, I've got you. And if you notice something in your body right now, something small, something unglamorous, like your shoulders holding themselves up as if they're still carrying the day, know this. If you notice your shoulders holding themselves up, know this room isn't asking them to stay there anymore. Not relax, not breathe in, not do a technique. Just permission. Permission to let your jaw unclench without proving you deserve it. Permission to stop bracing for the next knock. Permission to exist without being useful for 60 seconds. Because regulation isn't a trophy you earn after you've suffered enough. Regulation is maintenance. Meaning, rest isn't a reward. It's upkeep. Warm lamp, soft fabric, cold tile under your feet, that doesn't feel punishing, just real. Low hum in the vent like the house is breathing for you when you forgot how. Now, this is where we take that accumulated stress bill you've been carrying and we stop treating it like a metaphor. Because at a certain point, the bill becomes physical, not sad, not overwhelmed. Physical. Sleep that tears into pieces 2 hours here, 90 minutes there. A nervous system that jolts you awake like it heard a sound. A heart that races when nothing is chasing you. A chest that feels heavy, like you're wearing a quiet weight under your ribs. A body that's tired but can't come down. A mind that's buzzing like a swarm behind your eyes. This is allostatic load in real life. Bruce McEwen's term for what happens when stress isn't an event, it becomes a climate. It's the accumulated stress bill paid in sleep, in breath, in a body that won't come down from on. And if you want the cleanest, coldest way to describe it so you can finally stop blaming your personality, here it is. Allostatic load equals S, stress capacity. Again, this isn't classroom math. This is kitchen math. Stress keeps adding. Capacity doesn't magically expand. And the moment the sum outweighs what you can carry, your system starts paying in other currencies. It pays with inflammation. With cortisol staying high, with digestion going weird, with your fuse getting shorter, with your tolerance for people, especially people who demand access, getting thinner. And then one day, the bill doesn't just exist. It hits the table. Paper, weight, final. That's the moment people misread as cold. But inside your body, it doesn't feel cold. It feels like a collapse you've been postponing. Meaning, cutting people off isn't drama. It's what happens when capacity goes negative. And here's where it gets even more important, because it's not only about exhaustion, it's also about integrity. There's a kind of nervous system that can tolerate a lot of things, but not fake, not performative warmth, not compliments with hooks in them, not nice that comes with conditions, not affection that disappears the moment you stop being convenient. This isn't you being too sensitive. This is what I'd call a high-integrity nervous system, a system that doesn't sign contracts with inauthenticity. Outside, someone's words can sound sweet, neon, bright, polished, perfectly timed. But inside, something goes cold along the back of your neck. A subtle alarm, not paranoia. Pattern recognition. There's research on how quickly humans can read thin slices of behavior, tiny cues, micro-expressions, tone shifts before conscious thought catches up. And when you've lived through enough mixed signals, your system gets very, very good at detecting them. But here's the bridge that turns it into something you can respect. Your nervous system isn't too sensitive. It's high integrity. It rejects fake frequencies to protect your inner truth. Meaning, when you go quiet around the performative, your body is choosing honesty over harmony. And that's why cutting people off often feels clean, not happy. Not triumphant, clean. Because you're no longer forcing your system to sit in a room full of emotional static and pretend it's music. And now we can name the moral twist, the one people rarely give you credit for. Hate is loud. Hate keeps the connection alive by arguing with it. What you did was quieter than hate. You didn't slam the door to punish them. You closed it because your body needed something the world wasn't offering. Silence. Click. Then the hum returns, refrigerator cycling, air moving through the vent, rain tapping somewhere beyond the glass. Hate is loud. What you did wasn't hate. It was the switch protecting you with quiet. In polyvagal terms, that shutdown isn't a character flaw. It's conservation. Withdrawal to preserve what's left. Meaning, silence can be sanctuary, not punishment. And once you understand that, you can stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" You can start asking the better question. What kind of life would lower the bill? What kind of people don't demand access like it's a right? What kind of room lets your body stay on the inside? Because the goal was never to become cold. The goal was to finally become safe. Safe. That's the word your body has been chasing, even when your mind couldn't admit it. Because here's what most people miss. Silence isn't the absence of a life. Silence is what a nervous system sounds like when it's finally allowed to come down. So when you close the door and the noise stays outside, when the blue glare is reduced to a faint glow behind a curtain, when the static becomes distant, like weather you can't control, That moment isn't you giving up on people. That moment is regulation. In polyvagal terms, Porges' frame regulation isn't a mood. It's a physiological state where your body isn't spending every second scanning for threat, and that's why it feels like oxygen. Meaning, this isn't withdrawal from life. It's a return to oxygen. So let's say it plainly, the sentence you're not used to hearing. You're not isolating. You're regulating. You don't need to justify it with a trauma resume. You don't need to argue your case like you're on trial. You don't need to prove you suffered enough to deserve quiet. Sometimes, the most mentally healthy thing a person can do is remove the constant input, the constant access, the constant demand to be available like a public utility. Inside, the light is warm, not dramatic, not cinematic, just warm. A lamp in the corner that doesn't interrogate you. A blanket that has no opinions. The smell of a book with soft pages, paper, and dust and time. And the low hum is still there, steady, loyal like a house keeping its promises, air moving through a vent. A refrigerator cycling on. A quiet infrastructure holding you up without asking for anything back. Now, here's the part that matters. Because sanctuary isn't the same as shut down forever. Silence isn't a wall. Silence is a filter. A way to stop the leak long enough to see what was leaking. Because a lot of you aren't cutting everyone off. You're cutting off noise. And when the noise is gone, you start to notice something else. There are people who don't knock like they own the door. There are people who don't demand access to your nervous system. There are people who can sit in your quiet without trying to fill it, without making it about them, without treating your boundaries like a negotiation. That's why a small circle can feel like fresh air. Not because you hate crowds, not because you're difficult, because your system is finally only around signals that don't distort it. And there's research that points in this direction in a simple way. The long Harvard study of adult development, Robert Waldinger, talks about this, often keeps circling back to one core idea. The quality of our close relationships matters deeply for health and happiness. Not the size, the quality. Meaning, your peace isn't antisocial, it's pro-real. So if your table only has 2 or 3 chairs, that might not be a tragedy. It might be accuracy. A small circle isn't a failure, it's filtration. You can hear it in the little sounds. A spoon tapping a mug, ceramic on wood, soft, human, non-demanding. The kind of connection that doesn't spike your heart rate. The kind that doesn't require you to translate yourself into something palatable. And now we land this gently, without turning it into homework. Because this channel isn't here to send you back into the world with a checklist. You've had enough checklists. This is permission. Permission to let the door stay closed tonight. Permission to not answer. Permission to stop explaining why you're tired. And if the old voice shows up, the one that says, you're being cold, you're being dramatic, you're being selfish, you don't have to argue with it, you can just remember the truth. You don't owe the world constant access to your nervous system. Boundaries aren't a punishment. They're a lock on a door that was never meant to swing open for everyone. Meaning, peace is not disappearance. It's choosing what gets in. So here's the ending exactly as it is. You walk across the cold tile. One last step. One last check that you're inside. Your hand finds the lock. Click. And then, the great silence. Not empty. Not lonely. Held. 2 seconds where nothing is required of you. Just the warm lamp. The low hum. Rain far away, thinning out into the night. If you want to leave a single sentence in the comments, no story, no explanation, just one line, what does your silence protect? And if you don't, that's okay too. The quiet will still be here.